Hello, everybody, and thank you for being here on this glorious Saturday afternoon. I got to mute the phone because I just got alerted I'm live. I keep forgetting to do that before going live. And I don't like to listen to this thing buzz while I'm trying to converse with you. So that's done. So, once again, welcome to another Hangin with Hobo live. Saturday afternoon. It is 3:30 in the afternoon my time because I screwed up. I was doing too many things at one time, and when I was trying to finish at least one of these, I was also trying to schedule the stream, and I didn't pay any attention that I was so close to the going live time that it had moved it to 3:30 instead of 3. I didn't catch it. I didn't edit it. So I got an extra 30 minutes to run around like a chicken with my head cut off to get everything finished. But I did get the mirror finished and got that design already uploaded. It's on the website, and several of you have already downloaded it. But we're going to show you how I designed this. And these two are based on this exact same geometric shape. This is still a work in progress. That's just the tile. I haven't done anything with it yet. Framing it, doing something, but I've got an inspiration for when I was making the thumbnail. It's all the different ways you can use these kind of things, wall art, and then it's, and coasters, and so, and clock faces. So this is a square, 4 sides, and the way it's done there, it kind of has 8 points on it at any given place. I guess there's 1, 2, 3, 4. Not enough for a clock face, but a 6-sided shape twisted within itself. Now I got 12 points. It looks pretty radical, and it's going to be a lot of work, but I think it'll be really, really cool. And a finished piece might be absolutely gorgeous and bring a very, very, very pretty penny. So we're going to look at how to create the basic images because you might start there. You got to start there and create the basic image, and then how you can morph that and change it and use it for coaster designs with a monogram in the middle, or like I said, or clock faces, or any of those kinds of things. So I'm glad that you guys are here. I'm blessed to have you as my laser friends, and I am extremely grateful for each and every one of you. So I've also got for those who are part of the Hobo with Wood Facebook group, you may have seen the post this week while I've been in here designing and waiting for the lasers. I've got a lot of idle time on my hands sometimes while I'm waiting for lasers to finish. And as I've told you numerous times, I love to stir the pot. I love to get into situations and just stir things up. So I got into a pretty lengthy and in-depth conversation with ChatGPT this week while I was waiting on the lasers, and it was a very, very interesting experience. And I actually made a video twice, and each time when as I was finishing it, the video was corrupted. And it's the same process, same procedure every time I do any video. I didn't change anything. I can't see. So I was like, okay, twice in a row. So I'm like, okay, I guess, somebody don't want that video made. And then I also was on the fence about even posting it on Hobo with Wood, because there have been some few people who have made comments about, they don't want to hear, even if I just mentioned in passing, my faith and my belief. And they're like, yeah, we just come here to learn about lasers. We don't want to hear none of that. Yeah, well, okay. So, and there is a rule when dealing with the public. There's 4 conversations you don't have. If you don't want to make somebody angry, you avoid these 4 conversation topics. MSRP. You don't talk about money. You don't talk about sex. You don't talk about religion, and you don't talk about politics. Because if you pick any of those and you have a conversation, then you stand a good chance of alienating half of your viewers. So I was even, do I want to do this or not? I think it's extremely interesting. And so what I think I'm going to do, and because I enjoy arguing with AI as much as I do, not arguing, debating. And I won this debate. Chat GPT actually changed its mind based on my presentation of the facts. It said one thing, I argued the facts, and it, by the end of the conversation, it came around to my way of thinking. And I was like, holy smoke. Oh, hey, there you are. So I think I'm gonna start another YouTube channel. And it's going to be arguing with artificial intelligence and funny streams, funny channels, funny conversations, whatever. But the challenge to you is come up with a funny name for that. I mean, it's okay. Do you really want to argue with the intelligence that's going to rise up and kill us all anyway? Do you really want to pick that fight? You want to poke that bear? But play with that, and then drop me if you come up with a really funny idea, send me an email. Don't bother putting it all in here, because we want to stay here. We're going to stay laser, but I think that's going to be fun. And I do so enjoy just messing with the AIs, and I've learned so much about AIs, and that's another thing. People have got lots of misconceptions about what it is and what they do. So it'll also be another fun way to get exposed to some of that stuff, how it works and what it does and what is its true capabilities. So anyway, all right. Battle of wits against the unarmed. And actually, I was that was Chris's suggestion. Battle of wits against the unarmed. I was actually playing with an idea of something about, because I'm actually a pretty good debater. But I have nothing more than a high school education, but I got a whole lot of common sense. And that's something that AI doesn't have. And I do have a pretty good base knowledge on a whole lot of things. I know enough to be dangerous in a whole lot of things. But yeah, I was thinking about something along those lines. But all right, so let's look at designing this. And I'm going to talk about, and there's some techniques that I did with this piece that I didn't do with this piece. And you can see very noticeable differences in them, and not just the finish. And I'm going to talk about those and different design tips, how much this, this is just a simple tile right now. There's nothing more to it than it's not quite 300 by 300, but that right there was a whole lot more work than this. And this, is a completed design with a nice frame, hanger. This was a whole lot simpler to do than that. And you need to think about that whenever you go to price your pieces. If I were to do this technique with this mirror, it'd be twice the price, minimum twice the price. So things to think about. All right. Let's see. Do you want to chat or argue? I don't argue. I debate. And that was John's asking, do you want to chat or argue? I don't argue for the sake of arguing. I will pick a point. Just like I don't know if you ever watched any debates and debate teams, whether or not they truly believe, one team's got to argue this side of the point, this one's got to, they're arguing opposite sides, and one's got to win over the other, and so I like to debate. So anyway, Hobo versus Hal. All right. This is a very, very simple image to draw. It's so, and I put this in the comments, it's so simple to draw that a fourth grader can do it. And how do I know? Because that's when I started drawing this design. Miss Townsend's room at Chapel Grove Elementary, I sat down and I just started drawing this out, thought it was really cool. It was an optical illusion, and I was able to recreate it really easy, and I've been drawing it ever since. So it's super, super simple. It's nothing but a square that's been reduced by half and rotated. Reduced, rotate. So it's simple to do, and it's really easy to do in Lightburn. And I'm going to do it once pretty quick without even explaining it, just showing you the process. Then I'll go back and then explain what I'm doing, just so you can see it's not that difficult. All right, so we're in Lightburn, and I have upgraded to 2.0. They already have a new version out. 2.0.01's already out, but I have not downloaded it yet because it came out just before I was going live, and did not want to take a chance on messing it up. So I'm grabbing my rectangle tool, and I'm going to draw out a perfect square. I'm going to go into wireframe mode with Alt-Shift-W. And just so that my math is easy, I'm going to tell it to be 100 millimeter square. And we'll put it in the center of the screen. All right, now. So I've got my original square. I'm going to duplicate it. 1, 2. I got to hit Control, not Shift, dummy. All right, let's select it and duplicate it. 1, 2. Didn't duplicate that one. It's okay, we'll do it here. Oh, because I messed up my rhythm. I had the wrong, there we go. All right. So there, I've just created, if I put that back in fill mode, you can see the optical illusion there. Now, that's one way to create this, or that's the way to create the illusion. But the way that I've decided to do the design is, instead of having it where they're alternating like this, I took and had this triangle, the darker color, this one, so it spiraled in from one to the next, and it's a mirror on the image on the other side. So it's not difficult. Like I said, that's the exact same image. I've just filled, or instead of having it filled like you see on the screen with Lightburn, as I came in from each square, I just stepped down and put it into a spiral as it came around. So now I'm going to go back and explain all that, what I just did. Like I said, I was just show you it's not hard to do. So now let's go back here and let's explain it, Lucy. So if I start fresh, if I start with 100 millimeter square, and I'm using 100 because the math is easy. So, and let's go to wireframe mode with Alt Shift W. So I've got a 100 millimeter square. Now I'm going to duplicate each square and rotate it. But to save the back and forth and the back and the forth and the back and the forth, I created all my duplicates as I went. So I've got my original square and I'm going to duplicate it. Control D, duplicate it. And now I can rotate it, and I can rotate it by holding the shift key and using the less than button. I got to select it first, dummy. And there we go. Shift and select then. Now that is the same 200 millimeter squares, but one sitting at a 45-degree angle on top of the other. And because it is, its height is greater, and you those points like that. Well, I want this duplication contained in the original. And if the original is 100 by 100, and this one now, because I rotated it, is changed its size, I just need to go back to the original 100 by 100. And that puts it and constrains it within the original square. Now that original square needs to be duplicated and reduced by half. So I come back up here and I just say divide by 2. I need to duplicate that, Control D, select it, and rotate it 45 degrees. And that's half of the original. It's 50, so I just need to tell it to be 50 mil with my aspect ratio locked. I need to duplicate that again and reduce it by half. So Control D, duplicate it, reduce it by half, divided by 2. That's 25 mil. Duplicate that, rotate it, and tell it to be 25 mil. Duplicate it again, reduce it by half. It's 12.5. Duplicate that and rotate it. Got to select it and make it 12.5. So you've got your original square. You have duplicated it, rotated it 45 degrees, and kept it in a 45, or excuse me, in that 100 millimeter constraint. Then you've got a 50 millimeter square, which is half of the original. Each one of any of these that are running parallel to each other on the horizon, on the either a 0 or a 180, those are half of each one. So 100, 50, 25, 1250. Each time it comes in by half. And then you have to just simply duplicate it all. In fact, how many ways are there to do things in Lightburn? You can take and draw out 100 millimeter square. This might even be easier. 100 millimeter square. I haven't done this. We're going to do it together. I'm going to, with that selected, I'm going to Control D, duplicate it, divide by 2. Control D, duplicate, divide by 2. Control D, duplicate, divide by 2. And let's do it. See, is that 1, 2, 3, 4? Do it again. Control D, duplicate, and divide by 2. Now I'm going to select every bit of that, group it, Control D, duplicate it, and then rotate it. Yeah, this will work and be even quicker. Now tell that to be 100 millimeters. Look at there. I told you it was easy. So just make a 100 millimeter square, duplicate it 5 times, reducing it by half each time, and then group it all and rotate the whole group 45 degrees, and then reduce it back to the 100 millimeter, and bam, you got it done. You can't ask for an easier piece than that. That was pretty slick. Let's look at that again. That was really slick. So draw you a perfect square. And you know what? And it doesn't even have to be 100 millimeter. And that's the beauty of this design, because you're only just dividing by 2. So if you have a piece of material, and you can draw it out at 100 millimeter and then scale it down and make it whatever you want it to be. But if you knew that you had an exact dimension, you knew that that's what it needed to be. Starting at this is the biggest it can be. You can start there. And I'll just pull a random number. I was started to go with my year of birth, which is 69, but somebody will make a joke about that, so we're not going to do it. 76, bicentennial year, 76. So I'm going to go with a square that the largest it can be is 76 millimeters. You know what? We'll even do it, make it even harder. It's 76.33 millimeters is its size. That's the biggest it can be. 76.33 millimeters. Oh, I just scaled up. Didn't mean to. 76.33. And I'm all over the place here. 76.33. All right. So if that is the biggest that can be, if I just simply duplicate it, Control D, duplicate, and then come up here in the width field and come to the end of that value and tell it divide by 2 and enter. Hit Control D and then divide by 2. Enter. I'm not touching the mouse. I'm not doing anything. Control D, divide by 2. Enter. Control D, divide by 2. Enter. Now I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Is that right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yep, there's 5 of them. Grab all of those, and that was my most important value, 76.33. Group it, Control D, duplicate it, hold Shift and less than to rotate it, and tell it to be 76.33. And now you have designed it within your size constraint. I wish I'd known that yesterday. So I'm always learning. And you know what would be even cooler? And this is see, Lyle says, so those pieces behind you are only 100. They were made. No. Like I said, I designed it because initially I was thinking I needed to do math. You don't need to do math. Lightburn will do the math for you. I just showed you that. I put in 76.33 and divided by 2. Didn't matter. I didn't have to think about anything. But yesterday, because I get in my own way sometimes, I said, okay, I'm going to have to do the math. And it's always half. So an easy number to divide by half is 100. So I started with 100 and divided as 50, 25, and so on and so forth, all the way down to 1250. Then once I got the design, I could scale it up and down whatever size I needed to be. This was made cutting out. This is as big as I could get out of a 300 by 300 piece of material. So that's almost 12 by 12, almost. And the mirror is 4 4-inch mirrors. So the inside of that is 12 inches for the grid, then plus so on and so forth. So that was pretty cool. And like I'm learning every day, and that right there was a really cool process. And there was another way I was going to do it, but this, Chris, are you paying attention? Just stop joking with everybody, because this copy along path doesn't work. So if you can get with your Lightburn gurus and get those straightened out, unless I'm just reading the manual wrong. Oh, well, Carl, I've had plenty of RC. Today I had time to bring it in. So the way I understand copy long path is supposed to work, and even the manual says it's supposed to work this way. If I was to take this and I draw out 100 millimeter square, and we'll go back to wireframe mode. And then I draw a straight line, any old length, any old whatever. If I take this and I tell it to copy a long path, and I want 5 copies, and then I want it to scale the copies. And the way the manual works is it's supposed to, this is the final percentage. I want the final percentage to be 20% of the original size, right? So let's see if what I get here. Say okay. So there's 100. There's 36. It should be 20. So it's not scaling at the proper value. And I've tried it at different values. And I've tried looking to make sure I wasn't reading the manual wrong. And was it supposed to be reducing by each one by 20% until it got there? But if that was the case, then if this is 100, which it is, and it reduces by 20 each time, then that should be 80, but it's 84. So it doesn't work. If it did work, and this would have been cool, because if it worked, instead of having to create all of the duplicates, you could have done this. If these were 100 and then reduced by 20%, or if they were reduced correctly, you could have taken all of those and bullseyed it and had all your duplicates, and then take that, Control D, duplicate it and rotate it. And what was it? It was 100, right? Yep. So tell that to be 100. But because it didn't work right, the scaling's not working right. And just check if it's 20. Yeah, it's not. And you just seen that. Yeah. No, and Homer, it in the manual, it says that it's supposed to reduce to the final piece would be the percentage of the original. And the math don't math. No, I don't think it's ever been right, Andy. Because they don't go back and unless there's a problem in an old version, they just keep adding to. They don't go back and change things. So if it was working before, they shouldn't have done anything to break it in the new one. All right. So everybody see how easy that was to create? First generated shape, second in line. Yeah, and I did. And it was instead of 80%, because it was 84. Because if I started at 100 and I told it to end at 20%, then it should have been 100, 80, 60, 40, but the next was 80, and then it was 84, not 80. So even the next step down wasn't 20%, and the final version wasn't 20% of the original. So the math don't math. I tried all those, Terry. I tried telling it to reduce, because I was like, well, I thought, okay, well, if it's reducing each one by 50, maybe that would be the thing. And that's what Terry's suggesting. Terry said, hey, try it by 50%. But just so we can all see, come in here, tell it to be 100, just for easy math's sake, and draw a line. And we're going to copy a long path. And we're going to do 5 copies. And this time we're going to scale copies and tell it 50%. So because I was thinking the same, maybe that was possible, Terry, was, well, if this is 100, then this one would be reduced by 50. Then this one's reduced by 50 of that. So I tried that too. But what we get is we have our original 100. and this one is 90. So that don't work either. Well, Lyle, the only reason it lost you on the line, I think, is because it doesn't work. If it did work, you created your first one, and then you just telling it to create the reduced percentages of the ones, and then you center them. You don't have to create each individual duplicate if the tool worked. Now, the length of the line doesn't have anything to do with it. Because if you made it a real short line and you were telling it to be certain dimensions that you didn't have enough room on the line, they're just going to overlap each other. And since we were going to overlap them anyway, it wouldn't have mattered. All right. Yeah, there's something off about the math, Homer. All right. So now you've got that basic design. Let's go see what we can do with it. So let's get rid of all this nonsense. And if I go back into field mode, wireframe mode, or excuse me, field mode, we get rid of all of these. So I've got my original design here. Now, if you had and this is 100 millimeter square and or about 3.9, it's right at 4 inches square. And if you were doing slate coasters, 4-inch slate coasters, you could do something like this. And then if you wanted to make it a monogram piece in the middle, then you just simply, if you wanted to just grab some, I got to ungroup them, dummy. You can just grab the middle pieces there and delete them. Not duplicate them, delete them. And put a monogram in there. And with all those other ones missing, you lose a little bit of the effect. But you can create a monogram like that. But I want to show you something. Let me show you something. Take this. It's because we lost a lot of what's going on in the middle to make this a monogram. Take this, group it, duplicate it, Control D, and then hold your control button and start shrinking it down. Now you still got a nice monogram area there, but now you got a whole lot more going on again. And that was so sick. You just created a whole new geometric shape, and all you did was delete something and duplicate it and shrink it down. And that looks pretty cool. Then you could even take it and duplicate that and then rotate it. And it just keeps building. Let's see. Ralph says the first object be 100%, and the last one will be the percent you put in. Yeah, that's the way it's supposed to be, Ralph, but it don't work. So this, in a sense, we're creating geographic shapes, kind of like with an end result that you might get if you were playing with the spirograph, except because we're working with right angles, squares, you don't have all the curves. It's the same effect as the spirograph, but they're all corners. And what I'm playing with the idea after creating today's thumbnail about, using a shape, something like this for a clock. And I said, okay, well, if I use this, I've got 12 and then 1 and then 2. I don't have enough points. So I said, okay, instead of 4-sided, 4 corners, let's do 6 corners. And I got something like that. The 6 corners is a little bit trickier to do because you're not reducing the inner piece by half. It's a percentage, I'm sure, but I haven't done the math yet. And the funniest thing, I actually enjoyed math when I was in school, and I thrived in algebra and basic math. But the one that absolutely kicked my butt and I failed it and passed it barely by the skin of my teeth was geometry. I hated geometry, hated it with a passion. How long will it take to engrave on the coasters? Well, I guess that depends on your power and your speed and power settings. And if the coaster's 4-inch piece, doesn't take that long. But here with, if you're essentially almost engraving the entire surface area, so it wouldn't be hard to do the math if you know what your speed is if you're engraving a 4-inch square at X number of millimeters per minute, or it wouldn't be hard to calculate. But you get some really cool and interesting results doing stuff like this. Ed Cameron's, oh no, oh God, 100 square. See, dang it. 100 square is 10,000 times 20 equals 2,000. Square root equals 44.7. I have no idea what you're talking about, Ed. You've because those values still don't work with the result. Something wasn't calculating. All right. So let's see here. Mark that, and let's see. Now, instead of going down the rabbit hole of the 6-sided shape, because like I said, I know I've figured out how to do it, but I haven't figured out the easy way to do it yet. Like I just fell into doing that. Create all your duplicates, then create all your duplicates, group it, duplicate it, rotate it, and bring it back to the original size. And Bob's your uncle. That's the easiest design you're going to create. Then you can take that, remove pieces of it, duplicate it, and then shrink that up and down. You can get all kinds of crazy patterns from it. But how do you take this basic pattern right here and then turn it into something like this? This is a multi-layered piece, and the way each quadrant is its own quadrant. You see the mirrors? Say, hey, there's the camera, right? That's the microphone. Where's the camera? No, the camera's right there. There it is. So each of these is a separate piece that I've cut out and then placed in there, because the mirrors I used were these 4-inch mirrors that I had in the shop already. These have been a lot of fun to play with. I put a link to these in the description of this on the website. I got these on Amazon. I used them for testing, doing mirror engraving, and just they come in a pack of 50. So I got a bunch of them. So I've got a square, whatever size that square was, cut 4-inch squares out of it. The mirrors go in there, and then there's a layer for the walnut, and then a layer for the Baltic birch that's on top. And this one, and I'll open up the design and show you here. This one is really, really simple to cut out and assemble, because all of the inner pieces of the walnut, it's just one piece. You don't have individual triangles that you're assembling. It's just one piece of material that has one piece of Baltic birch glued up on it. So there's 2 layers. Attach that on top of the mirror. Easy to go. And then pop them into the rectangles, the squares that you cut out. There's your 3 layers. I glued it up on a backboard so it was reinforced. And then I'll show you how I did the frame. And if you notice the symmetry and how they scale, the largest point there in the middle, and then they scale down as they go across. I used the copy along path to do that, and that time it did work, do like it was supposed to. So we'll show you all that. But how do you get all of this cut? How do you get this broken up from one solid design and keep the design intact? Because that's what I like to do with you guys. Is I've got this on the website. You can go get it, but I'm going to show you how I created it, and it's not hard either. All right, close. I got pop-ups coming up here. Go away. All right, now back over here. Let's go back. Control Z. We're going to go back to our original piece. There we go. All right. So now I've got the design, and I've got a 300 by 300 piece of material. So let's draw out me a toolpath and put in my dimensions. And, I'm in inches, and you may know this already. You may not. I'm not going to switch it to millimeters. I'm just going to come over here and click on inches and tell it 300 millimeters. Enter. And it's going to put it in metric, the actual 300 millimeters. Put it on a toolpath. Put it in the center of the screen. Take this image, make sure it's all grouped, and put it in the center of the screen. All right, now that's centered up on my toolpath. Now, if you're going to have that as your primary piece of your design, then you're going to have an outer border, plus you're going to have another piece, and then you're going to have a frame. You got to keep all that in mind when you're stretching this out to fit into your material, because you need to leave room if you're going to cut this all out of a single piece of 300 piece of material. And that's what looks best without having to try and piece your frames together. So what I do, I've got my design. I get that. Next thing I do is I get the largest diameter, the largest dimension next, which is the outer perimeter of the frame. So go back here. And I'm going to come here and I'm going to do an inward offset, inward. And I can't, and Chris, if you can have them do this too. A lot of the tools that will have the toggle here to switch between metric and imperial. This one don't. Have them do that. Hope you're making notes here. So there we go. Back to metric. And we're going to come back here to the offset tool. And we're going to come inward and come inward 5 mil. And say okay. So that one is the actual wood. This is my perimeter limitations for my frame. So I'm putting it on T1 so I can keep them separate. Now, if that's the outermost perimeter, how big do I want the frame itself to be? Let's make it an inch or 25.4 mil. So I'm going to come in here and do another offset. And I'm going to tell it 25.4 mil. So now I've got 2 tool paths right here. That's an inch apart from one another, or 25.4 mil. You can make your frame whatever size you want it to be, but there is a tool path that I want my frame to be. So if that's how big the frame is going to be, and I want to create a mat-like area for my artwork, then I don't want to have like here. I don't want to have these the exact same size, because that requires perfect placement, precision positioning, and even then you're going to see the line. So this mat area is actually extends beyond that perimeter, the inner perimeter of the frame. I'm gonna knock that over in at least 4 times doing this. So if I want my mat to be inside this, converting to inches and millimeters has been a problem due to rounding, so it will never be exact conversion. Well, I ain't worried about the exact conversion. I just like having the toggle on all the tools. And it's rounding is a problem. I mean, it's just 25.4 millimeters equals an inch. And most time we're not working on things. Most people aren't working on things over 2 feet. I wouldn't think that rounding would be that big of an issue on that. But anyway, squirrel. I just like it, and they have it in a lot of places. When you open a tool, you'll have, like on the measuring tool, if you are working in your work area in inches and you open the measurement tool and you need to measure this in millimeters, there's a toggle in the measurement tool to switch back and forth. You don't have to leave the measurement tool to go switch. It'd be nice to have that toggle in all of those buttons, all of the tools that pop up. All right, so back over here. All right, so if this is my frame, now I want to create my mat, and I need it to come inside, or to go underneath that frame. Then I need to do another offset, and this time I need to go outward, and I'm going to go outward, say 4 mil. Say okay, being sure you're not deleting any of the original stuff. Now come back to that one, which it was selected, and I'm going to come in and I'm going to do an inward offset of that of, let's see, 4 is going to take it back to where I was at. So, and I want to be another half inch or so beyond that, and a half inch is around 30. So we're going to come back in around 17 mil just for looks, and just, I'm around and say, okay, done. So now if I put these on path so you can see them, if I grab those two right there and put those on that frame, and I'm going to put it in wireframe mode for a second, and grab that one and put it on something totally different. Now, if I change my priority, you'll see when that one goes behind, there you go. So there, the outer frame is overlapping your mat, so you don't have to worry about seeing where things lined up. And now you have a size for your artwork. Whatever you want to do needs to be constrained inside this area here. So if I, and what was that? That was 213.199. So if I just grab that and 213.199, that's going to fill that up completely if that's what I wanted to do. But that's not, I don't want to do that. You're going to, that's going to be a layer on top of this artwork. So I wouldn't want to have to worry about getting my placement perfect, because if I don't, I could have my mat overlapping my artwork. So I'm going to bring it in, another whatever. So now I've determined the size of my artwork. Yep, one sheet of material, Lyle. I'm right now, this is 300 by 300. Everything you see now is constrained within one piece of material. Now, how you cut it out and how you assemble it is going to depend. That will determine how many sheets of material you use. But all of this right here can be cut from one single piece of 300 by 300. That was my initial constraint, was a 300 by 300 square. All right. So now if you just wanted to do a simple engraving, that's ready to go. You can take the sunshine. No, you can take that layer, pull that over here. You can take this layer, pull that. Well, before I did that, let's put that back. I'm going to need to do, if this is going to be engraved, then I'm going to do the same thing with my mat for this right here. I'm going to do an outward offset of the same 4 mil, and we'll put it on and say, okay, and put it on a different layer for right now. There we go. So now select all of that, make that grouped. And then if I change my priority, you can see back and forth. See how that mat is overlapping even the artwork area? So let's put that back, group that and put it in the middle. And move that up. So as I bring it down, you can see the frame overlaps the mat. And then the mat is overlapping. There we go, overlapping the artwork. So now I've got my sizes of all of my pieces. Pull the frame out of the way, pull the mat out of the way. And that outer piece right there, I didn't need that engraved. So I'm going to put that on a cut path, because that would be cut out. And then that could be engraved. And then there, if you were just going to engrave it, there's one piece ready to go. Andy's, how do you cut out an overlapping mat with one piece of, no, I don't. They're layers. All of it can be cut from a single size. Yes, you're right. It's not all of it one piece. All of this can be cut from a 300 by 300. But in order for you to have really good positioning, you could do it from a single piece, but it's going to go flat. It's not going to be layers. So, and then you could even not worry about them overlapping and still do it. Now you in order to create that depth, that's how you get that one overlapping the other. And plus two, you don't have to worry about them getting the positioning just right. You wouldn't have to have them overlapping if you did outer spacers like we did with the military pieces. But then you would see a gap between the layers and have that shadow effect. So good thing you brought that up, Andy. I was not clear in saying, yes, it's one piece. It's designed to be done out of the 300 by 300 pieces. But we're going to get into this right here. I'm just showing you how I came up with what size is the outer frame, what size is the mat area. How do I get to what is going to work for the actual art size for me, for my desired outcome? You know, you may not want to do something that big, or you want to do it a fraction of that size and have other things going on, you know, around it on a different type of. So, but I'm just showing you how I do the math. How did I go from a 1-inch frame, then having it overlap a little bit of a mat, and then go to the next layer that has the artwork on it. This piece, I did use the same process to determine the placement and the size of the actual artwork, but not everything overlaps itself. And the waste material from one layer is actually used for placement and for alignment, and you'll see. So just trying to walk you down, instead of going, you know, draw this, do this, and do that, and do this, trying to explain the process and how this brain got to those end results, instead of just showing you do this, you know, because that's my end goal here, guys, is to help share, teach. You know, I can tell you to tie your shoes, you do this and do this, and you know, don't I'm not telling you why you do it, just do this. But I'm trying to tell you why you do it. And I'm not always clear. Sometimes I'm clear as mud. So questions like that are very valid and very valuable. So thank you for calling me on that. All right. Craig's just trying to get along with everybody. Look at him. He's wanting to be everybody's friend today. Oh, good question. All right. Now that you've decided what your parameters are, what your artwork size is going to be, what are you going to do with it? And that was my problem last night. I started this last night, probably about 7:00. I've been drawing the design since 4th grade. So that was a piece of cake. Did that. And then I'm like, okay, what can I do with it? So, well, I can create some wall art, but I didn't want to do just an engraving. So, I said, well, I got those 4-inch mirrors over there. Ooh, I've been wanting to do a mosaic where I could take, and it started out, I was going to do 4 large tiles like this that would then be put together to make, as you glued them up or hung them on the wall, it'd now be a 4-foot wall art where each of these is a separate piece that bleeds into the other to make the whole picture. That was my initial thought process. And as I said, it was 7 o'clock at night and I was already running out of daylight. So I'm like, I ain't going to do all that. And I got to have it ready before live today. So I said, no, let's do something. Let's do that, but do it on much, much smaller scale. Oh, yeah. 4-inch mirrors. 4-inch mirrors can be, of 1 square foot. Easily get it into this. Easily. I said, okay, now we got a plan. So I drew it up before I knew what I was going to do with it. And that's why I said you can do so much with it. All right, now I've got my parameters. I know I'm using 4-inch mirrors. Let's go put that to work. So go back over to wireframe, Alt-Shift-W. Select it, Alt-Shift-W. There we go. All right, I'm going to move this out the way for now. Get all this over here out the way. All right, if this is, well, now let's put in our other knowns. We know we're working with, and actually, what's it saying? Measure once, cut once. Bit myself. These are advertised as 4-inch mirrors. I took my mics and I mic'd them. I said, okay, it's 4.03. It's close. It's a 4-inch. And I cut everything out at 4-inch and got everything assembled. And then the mirrors would not fit because they were 4.03. They're 3,000ths or 300ths. 300ths of an inch larger than the 4-inch square. So it wouldn't fit. So this morning, and I found that out last night at about 2 or 3 in the morning. And I said, okay, done. I wasn't going to restart. So I went to bed, got up this morning and went to Hobby Lobby. And I got to give a special shout out to Ethan at the Gastonia Hobby Lobby in the frame department, because I went to ask him about tools to cut these little thin mirrors with. And my concern was, because they are so thin and cheap, that if you tried, and I only needed to take off 3/300ths off of, the perimeter. So actually take 6 off of 2 sides. It was just going to fracture. It wasn't going to cut. They're just going to, and I'm going to have to redo it all. But Ethan said, you know what? We'll give it the old college try. And he took it and he scored it and took it over to the machine or the little tool, and it didn't break clean, but it snapped on, cleaned it all off. And I was like, well, write me up a ticket. How much do you? And he didn't charge me anything. I did brag on him to the manager and tell the manager what a great guy he was and how helpful he was. So thanks, Ethan. If anybody knows Ethan at Hobby Lobby, go give him an attaboy and a pat on the back. He was a scholar and a gentleman today. But I did not measure these twice, and I did not cut them to the proper size, and it bit me in the butt. Long story, measure it twice. All right, so the knowns. We know that we have a 4-inch mirror, and we're going to stay with 4-inch for right now. But when you're designing, design it for what you know your piece is. So if I have a 4-inch mirror, I'm going to grab my rectangle tool, and I'm going to draw out a rectangle and tell it to be 4 inches. So here I'm in metric. You can click on your metric and just tell it 4 inches, and it'll go to that. So now I've got that, and now I need to create an array of this. And if I need to know what my constraints are, and you can do this with the array tool, but I have to look at it and think about it. So if you've never seen this before, we're going to have to think through this together. If I know that this, well, let's say I don't even want to be this right here. What size is that? That's 190.157. We're going to use round numbers of 190 mil. So if I need it to be 190 millimeters square, I can select this, go to my grid array, and I need it to be 2 columns and 2 rows. Then I can tell it right here, total width and total height. So 190 and 190, and I need it to be 2 and 2. Why? There we go. And 2 and 2. Did that give me 190? Let's say, okay, let's see what we got. I don't look like, I don't know what that did. Let's look at that. Say, okay. No, that's not 190. So that's why I say you are able to tell it what your dimensions are. Oh, from center to center. Is that what messed me up? Total width. I need 2 columns, and it needs, oh, you know what? I got to double it, dummy. No, that's right. That was, the whole thing was 190, right? 190. And why does it go back to that? What am I doing wrong there, Craig? Not Craig or Terry. Not Terry. Yeah, Chris. Because you're supposed to be able to put in your parameters, and it does the spacing calculation for you. 0 spacing. Well, it's supposed to calculate spacing for you. Put it at 0 and do 190 and 2. Total width 190. Now, see, it goes back to 1. It's not doing what I think it should do. It's supposed to, how many do you want? You want 2 columns, and your total width is 190, and it keeps changing it back to that. Let's try it from center to center. 2 of those, 190, and it goes back to 1. All right, so I don't think that's working like it's supposed to either right now. I don't know. But, all right, so we're going to forego that. We're going to cancel that, and we will just do the regular array. And you know what? We won't even use the array tool. Duplicate it, move that over. Duplicate those, move those down. Put 190 in the Y row. I'll try that too. But it wasn't, we'll try it. All right. So, but this is the way I did it last night. So whatever that size needs to be 190. Is that 190? So I can't even do 4 inches. That's going to be 2, or can I? Remember what we talked about this week? Our cursors, our snapping cursors. I grab that corner and put it there. Yeah, that's why it wouldn't work. Dummy. I was telling the array to create 2 columns with a total spacing of 190 with a 4-inch square, and the 2 4-inch squares are too large and it won't work. That's why the 2 wouldn't work. That's why I was not getting the result I wanted. So I would need to make my artwork bigger than the 190 to use my 4-inch squares. So that one's bigger than 190. So we're always learning. So just for giggles, let's put this back in the center so I can see what this total can be. Bring it out to about there, and we'll say 206. All right, so if that's 206, now let's try that again. So there, grid array, we want 2 columns, total width. There, I've got a 5 millimeter spacing, and it's already at 208. If I just tell that 206, 206, 0. Am I still telling it to be too narrow? If I duplicate that and move it over and then align them to one another, Alt Shift H, it's 203.2. That should work because that's not too narrow. 206 is what I told it. So array, not offset, stupid. Array. Thank you. 2 columns, 2 rows. And if I want my total width, there's automatically generate enough columns to fill the given width. This just calculates the required column count. Virtual arrays will not maintain this width. All right, let's do 210. Well, I thought I was going to show you something, but I'm not getting this to work the way I think that it's supposed to work. Because even there at the 206, the 4 inches side by side is still small enough that it should work and create the necessary, do the calculations for you, but it's not. Not, at least I can't get it to work. So this is when technology don't want to cooperate, go back to old school and do it yourself. So if there's my 4-inch and I got a new dimension of 206, then I take that. And actually, you can actually just take your artwork, duplicate your artwork, and bring that up here because you're going to be using that anyway. There's your piece. There's your 4-inch mirror. Put that in the corner. Snap. And now, and this is how I did it. I used the circular array instead of the grid array. With that, hold shift, select my outermost piece and do a circular array. And because we're working with a square, you can do all 4 at one time. If you're working with a rectangle, you can only do opposing, then copy that and mirror it. Because this is a square, you can do all 4 at once. So circular array with a square, tell it 4 copies, and okay. So now I've got my distance. And that's how I did it last night. And that way I didn't have to move anything. I positioned 1 in the corner, circular array, and now I've got what my spacing is going to be if I put those in those dimensions. So that's done. Now I can take and duplicate that group. Grab my artwork with that duplication. And now this is the new 2.0. If you guys haven't downloaded it, this is one of the things they changed. You don't have all of your boolean tools over here stacked anymore. You've got this you can click on and it'll give you whatever you used last. And that is kind of what I'm looking for here, but I got to do some other stuff for it first. But when you're not, if I didn't want that subtract tool, if you click on the little blue arrow right here, click there, it gives you now a drop-down menu to see your other Boolean tools and your Boolean assistant. Or you can always do your keyboard shortcut of Control B and just bring up your Boolean assistant. And then you can look at the preview of each piece as you've always done before. So there's what you're kind of looking for. There's your cutaway. There's some extra piece over here, which is fine. We'll clean that up. But there is your pieces that you need to cut out to create your oh shoot, I just used that collage. Thank you. Good Lord. But there's a problem with using just that. There's nothing there to hold it together. There's no outer perimeter. There's no outer frame. So you can't use just that. So we put it back. So in order to have something holding all that together, I need to select, I'm going to turn off my black layer. I'm going to grab these, and I need to create an inner offset of all of these pieces. And I want it to be thin, and but I don't want it to be so thin that I got to worry about the laser burning through it. So depending on the power of your laser, how well is your focus, is your lens cracked and you got a huge spot size, whatever, take whatever considerations you need to and the limitations for your laser when you're deciding on how thick you need this to be. Because you can try to cut it too thin and then it's just going to come off, burn up, or paper thin, or fall apart in your hands. So I'm going to go back here, and now I'm going to do an inward offset of this inward of, we'll start with 3 mil and say okay. So now if I turn this back on, I've still got my my gap between the 4 quadrants. But now I've also got something that I can weld these cut shapes together. Now, there might, in fact, I'm sure there is a better way to do this than what I did last night. What I did last night, and we may end up back there because I tried to show you something new with that grid array. With the way I understand it's supposed to work, as long as you're not trying to put too narrow, as long as you got room for it, it's supposed to calculate the space between the grids for you, but it wasn't doing that. The way this should work is if I've got my frames, the red cut layer here, grouped together as individual pieces. Those are 4, that would be 4 groups. That's the problem with the boolean tool. Those, even though they would be grouped individually, they're grouped, and then the 4 are grouped, become one group. Then I've got the artwork, and all that's grouped. That's the second group. I may be able to subtract one from the other in one foul swoop, but that's not what I did last night. We're going to try it. What I ended up doing last night was I took and just duplicated my artwork 4 times, and then took my first corner, cut out what I wanted, set it over here. Then took my next corner, cut the next duplicate, and set it over here. But let's just see what happens here. Like I said, we're learning together. And let's look. Let me turn this back off a second. Turn off the black layer. Yeah, so there's nothing there. Turn the black layer back on. Yeah, and the black layer's got that outermost square on it. All right. Let's see. Let's turn off the red and make sure all of this is grouped. Oh, you know what though? That's the other issue. These right now, these are lines. They're not solid shapes. They're just a cut line or a score line. They're not. I need to do an offset of this so that whenever it cuts it out, there'll be actually pieces attached to one another. So for this one, I'm going to come in here and do outer shapes. You know what? And I was having a problem with this too. I wasn't getting the results that I wanted. Let's ungroup it all. Those are all individual pieces. And now I tell it I want to do an offset. And I want to do, I don't care if it's outer shape. Yeah. So I was getting some funky things going on here. I would think that if I'm not telling it outer shapes only, I'm telling it to give me let's try go both, inner and outer. Doing both, if I wanted to do both and do 3 millimeters, I'd do 1.5, but it's not giving me offsets of everything. It's acting like it is. That's what these points are right here. These points are there because this offset, or this line right here, is being offset 1.5 mil, but it's not showing it. think they got a whole lot more bugs in 2.0 than a whole lot more going on than just resolution issues. And what I said earlier about things going backward, if it was working before, I think that was a misstatement. Um, but this is how I did this last night. Cancel this. I had to do an offset of this, do an offset of this. I had to do individual offsets. And I mentioned this in the past. All these are the same. So all I got to do is hold control and click on the offset. I had too many selected. Select that and hold control, click offset. Select that, hold control, and click offset. And if you really, and I didn't do this last night, and this is something that if you really wanted to go down on a pattern like this, where you're trying to show that that vortex and to create the illusion of depth, if you were to make each one of these offsets slightly smaller than the previous one, that's going to help with the illusion of it sinking in, because it's getting smaller and smaller as it goes inward. I started to do that last night, but as I said, I quit working at 3 a.m. I said, I'm not going to keep doing this. But if you really want to create that illusion, you make each one of those offsets just a little smaller than the previous one. And hold control. It appears a light burn. It appears a light burn math was done by taking 80 divided by 5 and subtracting that value from each iteration. This way, it matches the numbers they show for the boxes. Okay, and the sixth one is, but I only did 5 copies. But either way, and that's how the math is working. And you're saying that's what it's doing, and that's how it got there. That's not what it says it does. The manual says that you start with 100 and you tell it you want it to end at 20% of the original. Then the end one should be, and it doesn't matter how many copies you do. If you start at 100 and you tell it you want it to end at 20 and you only do 3 copies, it's going to be 100 and 20 and whatever it was in the middle. If you start at 100 and you tell it you want it to end at 20 and you put in 10 copies, then you're going to have a 10 step down until you get your 20. That's how the manual says it works, and it don't work that way. So back to here, holding control and offset. Select the next one, offset. And the last one, or no, not the last one. So this is where the size matters. You start getting to be too small. The offset's bigger than your piece is. So, but that's what I had to do. One of them duplicated. That one's duplicated. There we go. Something like that. 5 copies plus the original 6. Yeah. Well, now y'all gonna got me on another squirrel. Just turn that back on. $100. Not measuring tool. Pencil. Copy along path. See, this is another. That's what I thought. 5 copies plus the original 6. It don't work that way either. It's what it says, but that ain't what it produces. I've got my original, and I'm telling it number of copies 4, but there's 4 pieces total, including the original. If I do number of copies 5, it's the original plus 4 copies. And I want it to scale to 20. Then that should be 100 and that should be 20. But what Gons was saying is if I did number of copies out to there, then that might be 20. So let's go look. So there is 100. No, there's 33.333. That's still not 20. And he's saying to go to another one. Let's go back to copy along path. $20. There's one. And then he said 6 is what Gons did. The 6th one is 20. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Let's try that one. See what that is. Say okay. No, there ain't none of them 20. Oh. Oh, I didn't get a lot of sleep. Let's get back to the design. And I tell you what, I upgraded to 2.0. I have not downloaded the 2.0.01 yet. I tried to several times, but I kept getting connection or network issues. Thank you, Led Zepp. Thank you. God bless you, sir. Yeah, I don't ask. I don't ask. I enjoy this. I enjoy teaching and learning together and sharing the information, all of it, not some of it. I don't show you the cake and tell you the ingredients are sugar, flour, and eggs and go make one like some people do. I will. I try to show you what proportions, and it's also, and just like in baking, priority matters. If you add the wrong stuff at the wrong time, you can have a whole different outcome. Just like in Lightburn, if you do the wrong thing at the wrong time, priority matters. Priority makes all the difference in the world. All right, so we've determined now, beyond a shadow of a doubt, that copy along path does not work the way it's supposed to work. It works as a great tool, and I use it to make the frame. The scaling, you'll see. But when you're trying to tell it to start here and end here, yeah, that don't work. That subject, as far as I'm concerned right now, we've done I think we've explored all options on that one. Lightburn uses the number of steps to like this 80 divided by 5, but if you add 6, then the number subtracted is different. Yeah, I think like I said, the long and short of it is, if you read the manual, in fact, let's look at the manual, because and then we're going to close this subject. So if we go back over here and we go to help, go to online documentation, bring it to this screen so you can see it, and we search copy along path, except go away. All right, copy along path, requirements, blah, 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 open and close. Options. Here's our options. spacing, rotate, and scale. Scale copies. Enable scale copies and enter a value in the adjacent field and to incrementally change the size of each copy, with the final one reaching a size equal to the percentage of the original's size. So a number larger than 100 will increase the size of the copies, and a number lower than 100 will decrease them. A setting set to 100 or disabling the switch will keep the copies all the same. So here it's telling you I'm starting here and I want this one to be 250% larger than the original. Here, 100 is keeping them all the same. You're 100% on all your copies. 10, starting here, and I want it to end 10% different than the rest of them. Now, does anybody else interpret that any differently than the way I read that? Anybody? Anybody have a different interpretation of the way that's supposed to work? In either way, I can't figure it because the math just don't math. It's telling you that you're putting in a value and the end result is going to be a percentage of the original, and it ain't, regardless how many copies, because that's the way it says. You start with 100 and you put in a value. You put in 250, it's going to be 2.5 times larger. You put in 50, that's going to be half. Doesn't matter how many copies you have. It's your starting point and your end point. And the math don't math. So book closed. Close that. Let's see. I don't want to close anything I don't need to. Let's just move this out the way. I'd hate to close something and lose y'all because I'm an idiot. And I'm trying my best to get this parked where I need to and not lose anything. And I'm getting there. No, that's not what I want. Yes. Hey, there you are. Whew. All right. So, what's Chris say? I read it the same as you, but the maths logic they have used just confused me. That's because there's no logic behind it. It's not logical. It don't make sense. And I've tried Smart Aleck. I've tried it 100 different ways, and I tried it different values. I tried it seeing if it was the multiples of 10. I did use multiples of 10 just because it's easy for me to check the math. Didn't matter. None of it worked. All right, let's get back over here to getting these pieces cut out. So now I've got, let's turn off the red layer. So I've got these offsets of my original piece. I need to weld those all together. But before I can do that, actually, you know what? Let's just select every bit of it and hit that. And there we go. That's all welded together. So now you've got one piece with the offsets all welded together. Let's turn the red layer back on. All right. So now are these, nope, they're not grouped. So Control Z, put that back. Let's turn off the black layer. And let's see how, you know what though? I think, yeah, the offsets are grouped together. We're going to change this grouping. We're going to ungroup all this. I don't know if this matters, but I'm going to try it. I'm going to group these two as a unit, group these two as a unit, group these, and then group these. Oh, can't do it this way and get it that way. And group. Now those are grouped as pairs, and if I group all 4 pairs as one group, turn the black layer back on, hold shift and select our black layer, go to our boolean assistant, and look at the intersection. That's not it. The union, that's kind of not quite. Subtract, subtract. None of those are working. And that's why I think I played with it last night. And I ended up, and right there, the union is what we're wanting. But because they're joined, it's now got them joined there. So that's why I did them individually. So I did Control D, duplicate that, bring that over here. And now I need to ungroup my black layer. No, I don't need to ungroup the black layer. I need to ungroup the red layer. So let's subtract or select the red layer, ungroup it one time. So that should give me that group. Hold shift and select that, and then do the intersection of that. Not the intersection of the union, I'm sorry. Now it's still not giving me the right. Oh, that's right. And this is where people get lost. And I still do it. I've been doing this, and I just did this 6 hours ago, or wherever how long it was. You can't do the union with the subtraction with the frame welded together. You've got to use the outer piece only to cut the artwork. And the people, and like I said, I still get confused when I'm doing it, and I catch myself going, wait a minute, that ain't how it works. So I've got the solid shape of the artwork. That's one solid piece. The outermost perimeter of that little red frame, I need to duplicate that. So that's my cookie cutter. I'm going to use that cookie cutter one time, and it's going to cut that art. And then that cookie cutter is going to disappear. It's gone. So that's why I got to duplicate it. I duplicate the outermost piece, cut the artwork, and then once it's cut, I can now weld that into place with my outer or with my other pieces. Take a look. Cancel this. In fact, this might be easier. We'll see. So right now, these are grouped. I'm going to ungroup it. I've got to duplicate this right here. Control D, duplicate that. Now there's two of them there. With that selected, hold shift and select my artwork. And since I'm not sure about which one it is, I'm going to go to my Boolean tools and say, is it the intersection? And there's what I want. And if I zoom in, well, you can't zoom in, but you can see there, it's cut it away. They're no longer joined. It's an individual piece. Say, okay. And now I can take, and this, you can do this one of two ways. You can weld two together or subtract one from the other, but they depend on how you have them grouped. And right now, this, if we put this in fill mode, that's a solid shape that looks like that. And these are, let's put these in fill mode so you can see. If those were grouped, you're going to have that. So you could take and subtract this piece. No, you can subtract this piece from the inner piece, or you can weld this to both pieces. And I think you get the same outcome. But let's put it in wireframe mode. If I take this inner piece only, I don't have both pieces of that frame. I've got just that. So if that was to be, yeah. So that's one solid block. So that's A, subtract this. A, subtract, there we go. And now put that on the cut path and group that together. And that gives you one piece. There's one square. Did I just lose everybody? Yeah, Andy, I don't think copy long path has ever worked the way that it's described that it works. Oh, so now I'm wondering about something. Yeah, Steve. Hey, buddy. Thanks for joining. Thanks for coming in. We got we got a superstar in the house, boys and girls. Mr. Steve Ventari is in the building. Uh, no, Steve, I don't know how long you've been here, but I showed them how to create this in Lightburn, and I learned a really cool trick with the duplication and made it Johnny on spot real fast, like 30 seconds. Uh, and now I'm just showing, okay, well, great. Now you've created a really cool geometric shape. Now what can you do with it? So now I'm sectioning it up into quadrants and making that mirror there. Let's see here. So back over. So I've got one piece there, and there's my original. But now I'm wondering about something. I'm wondering. I'm going to try something. Yeah, I'm going to try something. Because this, I'm the day I stop learning is the day I'll probably stop sharing, because that's what I do. I like to share what I've figured out and what I'm learning. And what I just realized there is I was trying to weld those pieces a minute ago as groups, and I was getting undesired results. What I ended up needing to do was use an extra duplicate as a cutter to cut out the pieces. And I'm wondering if I can do that in one cut. Don't know if this is going to work. We're gonna try it. So if I take this entire design, I'm going to duplicate it, bring it down here, so I've still got my original. When this don't work, let's turn off the black layer and make sure all of this is ungrouped. And then the outermost piece is what I need to use as a cookie cutter. That actually, I just need to grab those right there. That's all four of the inner or outermost pieces. Now, if I group those, duplicate it, Control D, duplicate it, turn my artwork back on, and now say A, which is my artwork, subtract B, hold shift and select one of those duplicates on the top up here, and then use the subtract. Okay, that's a result, but it's not the right result. And this still works. All I've got to do is hit Control Z and click on that subtract again. And now I've got the result I wanted. Boy, could have saved a ton of time last night. Oh. All right, Gons has the right idea. There are program areas that they need to divide the 80 difference by the number of spaces, which is one less by the number of spaces. Yeah. That way, because your spaces can change depending on how many copies you're making. But they're not, it's like their wording and the delete all shapes smaller than selected, and it still deletes the one you selected. So it's not, it says delete shape smaller than selected, but it deletes that and all. And here you've created the original and how many copies you want. Well, those numbers don't add up. You tell it you got your original, you want 4 copies, and that should be 5, but that's not what you get. So the spaces, I don't know. It just needs tweaking. It needs tweaking. Your brain's in pain. Imagine what I was like at 3 o'clock in the morning this morning. How do you assemble those without damaging the thin outer colored wood pieces? Outer colored wood pieces. You talking about this, the mirror? Are you talking about the mirror, Andy? Or are you talking about this one? Because these are two different designs. We're looking at the mirror right now. And you might, I think I'll probably answer your question in just a second. But as we go through the design process. Okay, yeah, you'll see. Because Andy's asking, how do I assemble it without damaging but you'll see. All right, back. All right, so all right, did everybody follow that? Last night I did it 1/4 at a time, but I just as I thought it through, I was like, wait a minute, no, you can do it once. So as quick as it is, let's just back up and recap that for everybody whose brain's going, wait a minute. So I'm going to Control Z. All right. So right now I've got the 4 shapes, the 4 frames, but none of it's grouped. All these are individual pieces. And understand, when you're going to cut, you get to cut with that shape, and that shape is gone. It no longer exists anymore. So if you're gonna and if you don't need that any longer, that's fine. But if it's part of your design that you must have and you must maintain, then you got to duplicate that. That way your original's still there, you're cutting with your duplicate. All right? You got that. So here I have a total of 8 objects. None of it's grouped, and they don't need to be at this point. And since I only need my outermost pieces as a cookie cutter, then I can come right here in the middle and just drag from right to left on all those 4 corners. And that selects the 4 outermost pieces. All right. You with me? Okay. Now that I've got those selected, I'm going to duplicate those by hitting Control D. They're still not grouped. And I don't want them grouped right now. They're still ungrouped. I'm going to hit Control D, duplicate them. And now I'm going to group that duplication, because right now it says I got 4 objects. And when I group it, it gives me 1 object. It's 4 individual pieces, but they're grouped, making 1 object. If I turn my artwork back on and turn off the cut layer so you can see it. So this is all one solid piece. Everything's welded together. And Alt-Shift-W will put it back in fill mode so you can see it. And now if I turn on the red frame and let's put it in wire mode, line mode, there we go. So I need to cut this outer shape, the outer piece of those smaller frames, use that as my cookie cutter to cut away the piece of that I want to keep and get rid of. And when I did it a minute ago, because like I said, priority matters. It's A subtract B. You start what you want to keep's A, and I want to subtract B and get rid of B. I want B to go away. So if I want to keep, and that's where it sometimes gets confusing, and that's why Stacy brought this up in one of our chats about whenever you use the subtract tool and it gives you the opposite result that you want, just do the undo button or Control Z to undo, and then click that same subtract button right and just go, if it click and it's wrong one, undo, click, and it comes right back and it's the one you want. It will give you the reverse of what it did the first time. So that's why I don't even bother thinking about it hardly anymore. I'm just like, okay, I'll select A, subtract B. Oh, that was the wrong order, wrong priority. Don't worry about it. Just Control Z and hit subtract again, and it gives you the result you want. So without thinking about it, remember there's a duplicate right here. Those are duplicate. And whenever, and this is why I work in wireframe mode. I've just tried to click on that red line right there but you see what's highlighted or what's moving are the lines on the black layer because it's priority. If I go to wireframe mode, Alt Shift W, now I can click and get that and leave that unselected. All right, so A, I'm going to select the artwork, hold Shift, and select the cookie cutter. B, and I've got my subtracting is the last tool I used. A, subtract B. And again, that's not the result I wanted. Now I can go back and undo and say, okay, this time I'll select my cookie cutter first and then hold Shift and select my artwork and subtract. And there is the result that I wanted. But you didn't have to do that. I did my same priority a minute ago. I did it the first time. I got the wrong result, undo, and click subtract again, and that's the right result. The duplicate's gone bye-bye. I've used that cookie cutter to cut away the pieces that I didn't want, even if I didn't select them in the right order. We got there. We all together? Anybody still lost before I move on? Anybody? Don't be bashful. All right. So now I need to put it on the same layer. So if I've got that, those are on the black layer, put it on the red layer. And now I need to weld the two together. So holding that and then holding Shift and select, actually in before I got to group all those. So let's go back, Control Z, put that back on the black layer so I can turn it off. Turn that black layer off. Now I need to group these in their pairs. So I'm going to group that one together, group that one together. And now that those are grouped, when I look, I've got 4 objects. And if I turn my artwork back on, and if I weld it all together, nope, that's not the one I want. Undo that. I got to ungroup the black one time. There we go. Nabbit. Oh, wait a minute. Dummy. I just did this a minute ago before we got sidetracked. Carl says, my wife says I'm always lost. And Chris is still, Chris, it's broke, brother. But you don't need to learn about this. You know how to do this. So that's all good. If you figure it out, share it with the rest of the class. But it's broke. We've lost Chris in a rabbit hole. All right. So let's go back here. Let's turn off this red layer a second so I can see. I think I see what happened. Yeah, I must have moved it a minute ago whenever I was doing something because these shouldn't be here. In fact, they look like they're duplicates of something. Whenever I did the subtraction, those shouldn't have been there. I must have bumped it, barely moved it. So I did something wrong whenever I did the subtract. I misaligned it because those should not have been there. Those artifacts were a screw up. So now, those are all together grouped. Put that on the red layer, turn the red layer on and look for any duplicates. What'd you do there? That's not a duplicate, but there's a duplicate there. Ultimately, that's what I'm looking for. But all welded together. Some of those are overlapping. Oy vey. The going back and forth, I get lost and I lose the rhythm going back and forth. So I'm going to go back up here to my original, and that's why you don't mess with your original, because sometimes you get just so it's easier to just go grab it and do it over. Duplicate my cookie cutter, subtract. Now I've got that, and now I need to say, oh, now I need to turn this back off. And now I need to grab my 4 inner pieces. Group those. Come on. So those are 4 individual solid pieces of material. You know, that if you're ignoring these outer pieces because you don't have them selected, you've just selected that solid square of wood, and you turn that back on, and you want to subtract all of these lines from that solid square of wood. So that's A, subtract B. But we needed to keep our original. You needed to have a duplicate. Control D, duplicate that. That's A, subtract B. Put it on. No, we don't subtract. We need to do union. Golly. So that's the case. I need to get rid of the duplicate. There we go. A and there, and go to your boolean assistant. Not union, intersection. There we go. Now we're cooking with Crisco. Intersection. And put it all on the cut layer. And that is not how I did it last night. I figured out a way to do it a whole lot faster than what I did last night. Now you'll need to ungroup everything and group it correctly, because you'll want to be able to move those around independent from each other. Maybe. You know what? I'm just going to group it for now. So there is the piece that who was it Andy asking about how you glue it up without breaking them? That's the piece that you're going to glue up. That's the top layer that's going to sit on top of this. And if we look at this, this is not done like that's done. Those are done. Those are inlays. Each one of those is a separate piece inlaid in there. This is not. This Baltic birch on top is just that skeleton that I just cut out of the Baltic birch and then glued right on top of the walnut. And it's fragile, and that's why you need to know what your limitations are. Thank you, shoeless one. Maybe you should have kept it, and maybe you should get you some shoes. Say hi to your mom for me. Who's Who's shoeless one? Here you go, cuz. Who are you? Who are you, shoeless one? Uh, let's see here. What size is the frame around the mirror design? Shoeless Joe Jackson. Okay. Well, thank you, Shoeless Joe Jackson. The frame can be whatever size you want it to be, Craig. That's part of the beauty of when you're doing these designs artwork. You can make it it's personal preference, because depending on what you're going to do, and we're going to get there in a minute. Where are we at? We're already at 2 hours, but hey, it looks like the majority of you are still here. My outer perimeter was the limitation determined by the size of my material, but then the design that I put on it is going to directly affect how thick the frame's going to be. Initially, I started with it being about an inch thick, but then because I wanted to put these triangles and stuff on here, and I varied the sizing on it, then I had to move those down, so that changed the thickness of them. It's kind of got a unique look to it. It's got a little bit of an arch to it because the larger one in the middle, but the design dictated what size the frame was. I set the parameters on its maximum, but then I let the design morph. It turned into whatever it turned into. Limitations of material and lasers. It looks bigger than 300 by 300. Well, I promise you, sir, it is not. All right. And yeah, as Robert says, everybody hit that like and go gold. I still hate doing the solicitation, but right now, since we're stopped, we ought to do it. And as I said, we're 2 hours into this, and we've gone through a little bit over half of this design. And I'm going to show you every single step that I used to create this. And I'm learning new shortcuts over what I did last night and sharing them with you. And then make sure that you still understand what we did. And I'll go back and do it again and again. And I ain't asking you for nothing. And I hate asking you. I really do. And I'm blessed to have you guys do what you do when you do what you do. But if you see the value in this channel and you appreciate learning how to do it yourself and not being dependent on going over to Etsy or somewhere and buying somebody else's files, man, consider going over to patreon.com/hobo with wood. Where is that? There it is. And becoming a gold patron. It's $20 a month. It's less than $1 a day. It's less than $1. It's less than a cup of coffee every day. But it will sure benefit me. And you will get more than your value. It's one of the cheapest investments you'll make and have a huge return on your investment. I promise you. Smartest thing you can do. And then from a design standpoint, I'm pretty much at anybody's beck and call now. If they ask, I'm there to help. I don't care if they're a patron or not. But I hate asking. But if you don't ask for it, you don't get it. And and a lot of people would do it if they just knew about it. And I just fail to ask. So thank you, Robert, for bringing that up. And as Dave's backing up Robert, as Robert says, you won't regret it. And hey, man, how you doing? Glad you're here. Glad you're still here. You were here early and you're still here, or are you back? And if nothing else, I'm showing you step by step on how to do these. And then once you see what's involved, you're like, you know what? That $7.99 ain't a bad deal. And even if you don't go gold gets the files for free. But if you go silver or bronze, you get them at 60% off. So now instead of $8, you got it for a little more than $4. You want to go through all this design work and, or you know what, say, hey, you know what? I'd much rather you say, here you go. Thank you. Appreciate you. But I think it's extremely valuable to know how to do this, because you're going to buy files. You're going to, and you're going to get them off of Etsy, and you're going to get them from other places, and there's going to be problems with them, and they ain't going to work. And you're going to have all kinds of nightmares trying to figure out what's going on. So even if you don't tackle this and try to do it yourself, having these videos and instructional pieces at your fingertips, now you got a library you can go back and say, you know what, I remember him doing something. How do we do that? So if you spend, $15 or $20 on one of those big old huge collections and find out that none of it works in Lightburn like it's supposed to, well, now you can at least try and salvage some of your money back because you've learned how to fix the problems. All right. So now let's get back. So that we just created. Craig says gold makes the most sense and is by far the best value out there. I agree wholeheartedly. This will make you think I'm half Medved. Well, I know Sheila and all of those, and I know of Shoeless Joe, but you may or may not be aware. I've had multiple strokes, so everything's not fully available. All right. So back to the design. We just created the outer frame that's going to create the 4 individual pieces creating the individual triangles. But these are not inlays. Instead of, to make this design simple and create and letting the framework create the illusion of them being individual pieces twisting in on itself, those are all just one solid piece with that position in the right place to create that framework. And how do we do that? Really hard. This is one of the most difficult pieces of the entire design. So I've got my wireframe. I want to duplicate that. Now that I've got my wireframe, and I come over here and I'm like, okay, I'm going to look at ungrouping all this. It's all ungrouped. Now, I need to have a solid piece that's going to start at this corner and step down as it comes around. And this triangle is one triangle that's split by the quadrants. So I need to get rid of that, get rid of that, get rid of that, come down to the next one, get rid of that, come down to the next one, get rid of that. That's the other half of it. And get rid of that, and then get rid of that and that. Then I got to come to its opposing side and do the same thing. So this one over here, I'm going to get rid of. And honestly, because I don't do well standing on my head, I'm going to take this and just rotate it around. There we go. So now I can just delete the same ones I just did. Or, since this piece is symmetrical, you've just edited 2 of them. You could just take that, duplicate it, flip it, mirror it, and you're done. Huh? They're mirror images of each other. So I just edited this one and this one. Well, these 2 are the same. They're just flipped. But instead of doing that, I'll just continue to edit, delete, 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 delete. This is one triangle split between 2 pieces. Come down, same thing, one triangle split between 2 pieces. So now, see the spiral? And I don't, know if I would delete anymore. It depends on the size and where you're at. But there, group that together. That's the piece that I cut out of the walnut. And these are the holes that are cut that you see through the back to see the mirror. So there's your mirror. There's your walnut. And here, yeah, keep going. Group that together. There we go. So there's my wireframe. I'm on. And that gets glued right on top of the walnut and creates the illusion of the triangles. Now I'm going to open up the file that you can download on hobowithwood.com. And then we're going to go over and do the frame. We're going to do the outer perimeter of that frame because we ain't done yet. In fact, what I'm going to do is I'm going to pull all of this over here and we're just going to import. What did I call this? I called it vortex mirror. Vortex mirror. All right. So when you open this in Hobo with Wood, you get the pieces that I just showed you. There's the pieces that are going to be the large pieces of walnut or whatever material you want to be. Oh, I didn't have you on the right screen. Damn it. Okay. So I've been a gold member and it's the best money I've spent. Your mom told me Linda was my mother. Have a great weekend. Okay. Linda was your mother? I'm lost on that. But okay, back to lasers. And thank you for your contribution, Shoeless One. I love it. For people, if you want to catch Steve's attention, use question marks. Yeah. If you're new to the stream and you're wanting to make a comment that you need me to see to correct me because I'm doing something wrong, put the 3 exclamation points like he's saying there, right there. And that jumps out at me because you guys have been conversing about that copy long path thing. And I've already closed the chapter on that for now. So I don't read every comment. If it's not 3 exclamation points or 3 question marks, I have to keep scanning. So if somebody has asked a question that I have not answered, or you've got a comment that says, hey, dumb, you're doing it the hard way, I welcome that too, because I learn from you guys. And if you're trying to teach me and I don't see it because you didn't read 3 exclamation points, then neither one of us benefited by it. So that's what Ed's saying. Use the punctuation before your statement or question to let me make it jump out at me. Thank you, Ed. All right, now back to the design. So what I was showing you is this is how the design would open up when you pull it in. If you get it from hobowithwood.com, there's the solid pieces with the walnut or whatever you're going to use. And there's the wireframe that you cut out that gets glued to the top of that. But I'm going to show you how I've got this laid out that where you're not wasting any material. This right here is not 300 by 300. That's 238 by 20. That's going to be centered over a 300 by 300 piece of material. Same thing goes for this. That way, when you cut those out, you have your pieces to use for your center alignment grid. That's your grid for assembling it. And that's why I wanted to pull this up and before I jump to the frame. So if I pull up my rectangle tool and I put a 300 by 300 piece of material on here, 300 millimeters put it on a toolpath, and I take this one right here, and I duplicate it, and I tell it to go to the center of this piece. And I place this in the corner of my machine, wherever you're going to cut from, wherever your home position's at. It's going to cut this out. That's going to be the outer piece is going to cut out, and you're going to have this center cross grid as these pieces cut away. These are the pieces that's going to go and get glued up with the mirror, but you've got that outer framework that's going to serve as your outer perimeter outside the grid and the cross in there. And you've got that with the Baltic. Here I use Baltic birch and walnut. You can use Baltic birch for all of it. But I did what you see here underneath this walnut here is the Baltic birch from this framework. So I did not waste anything. It's all there together. All right. So, and did I fail? I failed to show you that, or I don't know. I'm getting discombobulated. I don't know if I had the camera set right or not. So there's that outer piece, and then there's your center framework. And then the Baltic birch is underneath that top piece there because I didn't want to see the Baltic birch in that cross. But the piece that I used to cut out the wireframe Baltic birch is underneath it as a spacer for the additional support and ease in assembly. Back to the design. So you're going to do that with all those. You're going to put that in the center of 300, that in the center of 300, put that in the center of 300. But this one I have grouped differently. This is another spacer that you'll need for assembly. Plus, if you're going to do the side pieces to help glue this up and make it look nice and pretty, like I've done there, I've got those figured in there too. So that one piece of material will give you the outer piece for your final trim, plus the trim for the sides and the top to dress up and hide all those laser cut lines and all your layers. And then an optional hanger. And you can take, and guys, learn to recognize what's waste. If you're going to use this optional hanger, and I'm not going to pick it up, you've seen it. If you're going to use the optional hanger on this particular piece right here, these 4-inch squares that cut out, those are potentially waste material. So just grab that, grab it all, if you want the hanger, and drop it right in there and cut your hanger out of that waste material while you're cutting all that. And I did not place it there because I didn't want to confuse anybody when they were looking at what it was. But those are going to be 4 coasters or 4 scrap pieces of material. You can cut your hanger right out of there and be done with it. All right. All right. So the framework, the frame, the outer frame. You don't have to do anything special with the mat, because the mat's just a piece of material that helps you transition from your artwork to the outer frame and hides all your seams, and everything looks nice and neat. But you don't want to have just a rectangular or a square in this case. You don't want to have just a square perimeter. At least I don't. But because I'm working with triangles and squares, I didn't think a round scalloped edge around my frame was going to look good either. And I didn't want to just have a bunch of triangles around my frame. So we're going to use copy along path, and we're going to scale the image. And then because copy along path will scale the size, one way. And Chris, put this in your notes. It'd be nice if copy along path would scale from a minimum to a max back to a minimum. That's because that's what we're going to do. But I'm going to do it by just doing it one direction and then copy it, mirror it, and then we've got our up and down. Looking to make sure. In fact, I'm going to put, y'all ain't falling asleep on me, have you? I'm marking my spot here. And now we're going to go to the frame. All right, Ed, have a good night. All right, so have I got everything turned on? Yep. And trying to remember, I'm pretty sure this was what was going to be the frame. Yep. So let's take that and put it in the center of the work area. And now I'm like, okay, how do I dress this up? How do I make it look nice? Well, like I said, I'm working with triangles. So I'm going to draw out a square. And it doesn't matter what size square. And I'm going to duplicate that square, Control D. And then I'm going to rotate that square. And then I'm going to use that right there, because that shape, that triangle, that's, what is that, a right angle? Because that's a 90 degree right there. So that's the shape of all of these triangles over here. So there's my pattern. So I'm just going to using the knowledge that I gleaned from Hobo with Wood this week, watching his snap cursors. I'm just going to draw that out. Using my pencil tool, go to the black layer. Well, that's Control Z, duplicate. Priority matters. Select your layer first, go to your pencil tool. Now I'm using my snapping cursor to come right here and find that intersection, draw a straight line, find that intersection, go to that point, and the next intersection, and pop, done. And now I've got a triangle. And now, boys and girls that are still here, we're going to take a quick intermission because that RC has ran through me because we've been longer than I usually go. So I'm going to give you a media asset, and we're going to do a 1 minute or so intermission. So everybody else can go take a potty break, and I'll be right back.
Candlelight and moonlight all around us, I look into your eyes. You hold my hand underneath the table, and I can't disguise the way I feel. I could have wished 1,000 wishes for this night. I can't believe that it's finally me and you and me, just us and your friend Steve. Do-do-do-do-do-do-do, Steve. Do-do-do-do-do-do-do, leave. What's the deal with your friend Steve? Oh, hey, how's it going? You took me out for waffles and to the movies. I was hoping for romance. You even took me to the Mexican circus. I thought there was a chance we'd be alone. I could have wished 1,000 wishes for Steve to disappear. Why is he always here? Do-do-do-do-do-do-do, Steve. Do-do-do-do-do-do-do, go away. What's the deal with your friend Steve? Oh, hey, how's it going? It's not that I don't like your friend, but how many hours with him can you spend? And it's not that I don't think he's great, but it's only you. Only you. I wanna fillet. Are you gay for Steve? I think you may be, and that would be alright. But let a bitch know just what your steez is, so I know if I should shave tonight. I could have wished 1,000 wishes, 'cause I like to be with you. But if it's always me and you and your friend Steve, there's nothing I can do-do-do-do-do-do-do, Steve. Do-do-do-do-do-do-do, Do-do-do-do-do-do. Why don't you just go be with your best friend, Steve?
And we're back. And that song was all about me. All right. So I love those two that, yes, I think they're absolutely hilarious. I love it too. All right. Now let's knock out this outer perimeter for the frame real quick. And because Dad's saying he's hungry and I'm hungry and we've been at this already. And so we're going to do this wrapped up in the next 10 minutes and be out of here. All right. So back to Lightburn. So I've created that triangle that emulates the same points and angles that I have over here. And if I grab it using my snapping cursors right there in that middle node, I can then come up here. And if I can see it, there we go. And I can see it all. I can snap it to the middle. Where there it is right there. So that's right in the very center of that square. And if I want it to be bigger than that in the middle, I need to adjust that and say, okay, that's about as big as I want. Now here is you, before you start doing that, you need to think about how big can it be? How much, because I don't have my 300 by 300 toolpath on there. So I got to know, I need to do that so I don't make it so large that I can't cut it out of my material. So just take that. No, we'll just draw out another one. I started to do just a duplication, but that's grouped. So 300 by 300, put it on toolpath and center it. There we go. Now see, see. That's why you have to be thinking. You have to be thinking, because if you're not thinking, you might be messing up big time. If I had not put my toolpath on there and I designed that, then I'd be like, oh, don't work. But now I see that it's not going to work at that size, but that's okay. That's why whenever Craig, you asked me, well, how did you determine, or what size is the frame? Now's when I started worrying about my frame size. This inner piece can't change because that's married to my mat or, the other pieces. But this outer piece can change to whatever I want it to be. So if this needs to be inside here for cutting, to stay within my material size, then this is going to have to be down here about like that, because I want this to scale as I come out to get smaller, and I want it to be at least that big. So I've scaled that down to give me the size that I want in the middle. Now, if I take and grab my pencil tool, come here in the center of that triangle, hold shift and draw out a straight line until I get out here toward the end of this, stop drawing. Then I come over here and I'm going to put this on another path so you guys can see it. That didn't help you none. That helped a little bit. So now I'm going to copy a long path, select the triangle, hold shift, select that, copy a long path. And I'm going to move this down here so I can see it. And I want to increase my number of copies, and I want to scale my copies. Here, I don't care what the percentage is, because I'm going to go by what looks good. So let's just tell it 10. That's, and now let's go 20. Let's go 40 or 35. And I'm just going by what I think. And that looks like that's a pretty good scale from that size to that size. And because of I did it from center to center, we'll fix that in a second. But now I can increase my number of copies. And I'm actually even going to overlap them like that. Yeah, I like that. And say okay. Now I'm going to get rid of my line. I'm going to select all of those. And let's go ahead and align them to the bottom. Let's see what that does for me. They're aligned to the bottom. All right. And now let's bring them back down in position. And if I'm looking, I'm like, okay, well, that's a little bit longer over there. It's not at the corner. It's not really that big of a deal because this size, the outer perimeter is not set in stone. But watch this. They're not grouped. I select that one and I grab the corner of that and actually I'm not even going, I'm going to just use my arrow keys and arrow it over and get it right there. Now with that one, it's like, wait a minute, that's not spaced right. That's fine. I'm going to now select every one of them and use my distribute tools and tell it to distribute them horizontally with even space between them. And that moved them all out. So now they're equally spaced and constrained within that distance right there. Now I'm going to group it, Control D, duplicate it, mirror it, and then slide it over. And then grab the point of this one and put it on the point of that one. Now I've got scale up and a scale down, but I've got a duplicate in the middle. So I've got to ungroup that. And then I can grab right there and delete one of those. And then I can weld those and those. Oh, those are, did I not group those over there yet? Or I didn't group any of them yet. Grab them all and group them together. Now, I've got one pattern. Hold Shift, select my outermost square, do a circular array, and that's and we won't. Did I not get? I did not. Can't. Did I not get? I didn't get it. Select the triangles. Hold Shift. Select my square. Circular array. There we go. 4 copies. Rotate the objects. Say OK. And now I can select that first one that I had. I don't need that anymore. Delete it. But I've got an extra line in here. I don't need that either. And I got something funky going on here because of the way I welded stuff together. That's okay. Let's ungroup it and see what we got. Ungroup. That's where they're, oh, okay. Let's go Control Z, back together. And weld that all together. There we go. Now that got rid of those individual pieces, but that line don't need to be there anymore. So I ungroup that and delete that. And now I've got my outer perimeter for my frame. So that'd be on a cut path. That'd be on a cut path. And I opted to put another little point out here on the corner. But that's totally, totally your prerogative. And Chris says, Bug reported someone else asked for a scale from the middle. They got told to mirror and result, which is what I did. You know, and it is easy enough to do. But when they don't have anything else to do at Lightburn, that'd be a simple thing to add. When they don't have anything else to do. And Kiraboy says, yeah, he had put a point on it on the outer corner too. And that's what I've got. And that's simple to do. You can just take and come in here and say, draw a square. Come right here. Find the center point of that line. Where, oh, where? That ain't it. That's got, oh, you know what? Let's look at this. All right, and this is what I love. There's one instructor on this wonderful YouTube that'll tell you that when you find that, that's the midpoint. Well, that's not the midpoint of that line. It's the midpoint between the two closest nodes. And because I welded those two pieces up a minute ago, there's some random nodes in there. So when I go and look at that in node editing, grab that. Oh, didn't want that. Delete that. Select it. Go to node editing. See there? There's a random node right there. And if I were to draw a guideline over here and line it up with that corner and then go back into node editing, see, there's where that node lines up. That's part of that other line. But it created a random node in here. So when I go to my cursor for my snapping, it's going to give me a midpoint right there because that is the middle between that node and that node. And then right there is going to be the middle between those two nodes. So that person that says, oh, yeah, you look for that little right there and you're in the middle. No, that's not necessarily true. Not always. But if I come right here and delete that by hitting the letter D and then delete this, we don't need that guideline there anymore. Now I can come in here and find the middle right there. So now that I'm in the very middle of that line, I can use my square tool, my rectangle tool, come right there, hold shift and control and draw out a perfect square to about wherever I think it looks good. And then I'm going to hold shift. Got to get my selector tool, hold shift, select that, do another circular array, 4 copies, and that puts all 4 copies in the other corners, and group the results, say okay, and then that plus that, and weld it together, and now I got a corner on there. That easy. All right. So guys, hope you found this informative. I appreciate all you guys that hung around. I've got a dad's hollering he's hungry. I'm hungry too. We went 30 minutes longer than I anticipated going, but I wanted to show you this complete process. Oh, yeah, yes, about that. Thank you, Andy. Did you use wood stains on the piece behind you on the left? Yes. This is actually all Baltic birch, every bit of it. This was done with 2 pieces of Baltic birch. I didn't worry about the kerf. Oh, no, I lied to you. Oh, my goodness, I lied to you. And this was something I wanted to share. All those people who jumped off, they're already gone. Boy, they missing out. Because this right here, it looks good. But this is the difference between, you know, a $30 piece and a $60 piece, you know, or double the value. Because this was cut out, this grain continues from this square or this triangle to this triangle to this triangle. The uniformity is there because that's one solid piece, and then it moves up here. All of the grains are parallel. Nothing changes. It doesn't have the movement. It doesn't have the twist because that's just one solid piece that's cut out with the skeleton creating the illusion of individual pieces. And you can tell it's one solid piece. I haven't finished this concept yet, so this design's not on the website. But these are individual pieces, and you can tell by looking at the grain. Each one of the triangles is rotated. The grain moves every time, so it creates the additional illusion of movement. And if I wanted to take it a step further, and I probably will when I finally finalize this, to create even more of an illusion of that twist, each one of those offsets is going to get a little bit smaller and a little bit smaller. But you don't want to make it so small that it's too fragile. So you'll start with bolder pieces out here, you know, bigger, so you can get them down. And so it'll be I'll split the difference. But how did I do this? I'll show you this and what I've got, how I've got it worked out. But every piece of this that's done in the gun stock, that's cut from a single piece of birch. And then the walnut, as walnut stain, is done from another piece of birch. So it's 1, 2, 3. There's 4 pieces. I think there's 4 pieces on this because I had to get the skeleton from another single piece, because in order to create the rotation, you don't cut it out in this formation, or else you wouldn't have the rotation. So the rotation is created this way. I'll show you this and then we're going to go. Because it's not a file yet. I've got it in my art library. I've got it in my work in progress. And it was this one. 7/11, yesterday, 7/11, July the 11th. So here is how this design works. I've got all of the pieces of the triangle laid out so that all of the grains run parallel to each other on every single piece of every triangle. And you have to cut this pattern out twice. And then what I did to help create the illusion, or to give it, and you wouldn't have to do this because the different colors help, but if you look, this grain is running parallel to this line in the wireframe, but on this one, they're running perpendicular. So I did that to create even more contrast, and you see it and don't even realize that's what you're seeing. You're like, wow, look at all the movement, all the motion that's going on. Because every grain, every triangle, the grain turns, and then the 2 colors are contrasting angles as well. Yeah, I like the grain moving better too. And you can do that with this one. But that's what I was saying. This is a quick, easy one to assemble. To do this with this, it's going to be a whole lot more work. It's going to be more material. It'll look really awesome, but your prices should reflect the difference between, that's pretty cool, to, wow, that's gorgeous. All right. No, I did not stain it before I cut everything out. I cut everything out, and then I've got my stain in one of those Tupperware bowls, and I just submerged everything. Leave it there for a second and take it out, dry it, wipe it off. It's done. But back over here. So this, I cut it all out with all of my grain running horizontal. Then my next piece of material, I put my grain running vertical and cut it again. So alternating the grain on the laser bed to cut this out twice, and then did my finishes. Make sure make sure you keep your pieces together. If you're going to stain them or paint them or whatever, I would recommend staining and not painting. Painting will hide your grain. Stains will bring those grains out. And honestly, you could actually get a pretty cool effect with just the natural wood and not doing any staining, and then once you put your lacquer finish on there or your poly on there, it's going to bring out the grains that are natural anyway, and you'll see those, and it'll be, a cool effect. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4 pieces of material to do that piece, but a whole lot more work in finishing and assembly, and then a lot more work involved in that over that. And I'm entertaining the idea of doing, instead of a square, using a 6-pointed polygon, hexagon, or not hexagon, but 6-pointed polygon to create rotated and interlocking pieces, and creating a clock face so that we have a point at each hour and have all those things going on, and do that with the inlays, and do that with a piece of the babinga that I've got over there. I've been trying to figure out what to do with. The material alone is going to be close to, $100, $130 just in the material, not counting the processing. But the babinga is beautiful, beautiful wood. Here we go. Switch. That's the babinga I've got over there, and all those grains, and that's natural. It doesn't have anything, any finish on it. Once you apply the finish to it, all that pops out. And then you have that with alternating directions on all the different triangles. That'll be wicked. Thank you, Gene. Thank you for being here. Thank you for hanging out. And I'm going to say that's it for everybody. So that's on hobowithwood.com. We went through the whole design process. You know how to do it. You've seen what's involved. Do you want to do it, or do you just want to go over and get it? If you're a patron, you're getting it for free or at a discount. The mirror would look awesome. Just a small. The mirror would look awesome. Just a small piece. Don't know where you were at there, Booney. You can't get too small with doing these because those triangles. This little bitty one in the middle, I mean, it's only about 2 or 3 millimeters. Anyway, thanks, guys. Thanks for hanging out. Hope you had a good week. Hope you had a good weekend. Hope you have a great week coming up. If anybody's going through something, just remember, the only way through it is through it. We head down, and when you need to escape, go turn your laser on. Thanks, guys. Thanks for being here. Thanks for your support. Go gold, patreon.com/hobowithwood. I greatly appreciate it. I'm going to go take Dad, and we're going to have dinner. Y'all have a great week, and we'll see you next time.